The humiliation happened in front of the entire engineering floor. A hush fell over the glass-walled conference room as the CEO cleared his throat and gestured toward a tall, broad-shouldered white man in an expensive gray suit. His hair was slicked back, his grin wide and arrogant, like he already owned the room. "Everyone," the CEO announced. "Meet your new lead engineer, Travis Rowe." People exchanged glances. Whispers sparked like live wires, because the title lead engineer belonged to someone else. Everyone turned toward the far side of the table, toward Jordan Wells. A soft-spoken black engineer with 10 years in the company, the man who had built the prototype they were unveiling today. The man who had lived in this building for months at a time. But Jordan remained still, jaw clenched, hands folded in front of him. The CEO continued. "Travis will be taking over effective immediately. He brings a fresh perspective." Fresh perspective. That was the sanitized corporate term for something uglier. Jordan slowly rose to his feet. "Sir, I designed the Helios core. I'm the one who—" "Yes," the CEO said brightly, "and we thank you for your contribution. But the board wants Travis to lead the presentation today. Investors respond better to—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room heard the unspoken truth. The room felt hot. Too bright, too public. A few engineers looked down in guilt. Others stared at the table. Travis smirked as if receiving a crown. He stepped forward, clapped Jordan on the back, too hard, too patronizing, and said, "No hard feelings, man. Sometimes companies need to, polish the image." Jordan stiffened but didn't react. But someone else did. A woman sitting in the corner, a woman most people in the company barely noticed. A black woman with deep brown skin, coiled braids pinned back, glasses slipping down her nose, wearing a simple navy sweater and dark jeans. She blended in so well that people often mistook her for an intern or administrative staff. Her name was Amara King. She watched the injustice with a quiet fury that she didn't let reach her face. Jordan stepped back, humiliated in front of peers, subordinates, strangers. People watched him fall without touching him. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen someone's dignity stripped away in a room full of people who call themselves professionals? Have you ever watched a hardworking person become invisible because someone else walked in with a louder smile, a paler skin tone, and the right handshake? Because that's what this company was. Helix Dynamics. Glass offices, chrome surfaces, $5,000 drone prototypes floating in corner labs, investors in tailored suits, engineers in branded hoodies. A world where hierarchy was disguised as innovation, where merit mattered until it didn't, where people said diversity in meetings but didn't mean it in practice. Travis walked to the head of the table, soaking in the attention, while Jordan stepped aside. He gathered his binder, his sketches, the detailed notes he spent months refining, and quietly slipped them into a backpack. Then he left the room. People watched him go. No one stopped him, except one person. Amara rose from her chair, grabbing her notebook. She wasn't lead engineer. She wasn't famous in the company. She wasn't even considered core talent by management. But she followed him out the door. "Jordan," she called gently in the hallway. He stopped, eyes red but posture firm. "Yeah, I'm sorry." He shook his head. "Don't be. They already made up their mind weeks ago." "You knew?" "I could feel it." He gave a tired smile. "When they stop inviting you to meetings you created, that's when you know." Amara's throat tightened. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Jordan shrugged. "I'm heading home. figure things out later. You're not staying for the presentation? He laughed, humorless. Why? They don't want me in the building. But Amara's mind was racing. Because while Jordan was the talent they replaced, she was the talent they had never even seen. Quiet, invisible, underestimated. She was a junior engineer, technically. But her understanding ran deeper than most of the leads. She stayed late studying schematics no one assigned her. She fixed bugs silently at night. She built entire components that other engineers took credit for. And she had a secret. One no one at Helix Dynamics knew yet. Jordan nodded at her and stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut. Inside the conference room, the presentation began. Investors filled the seats. Cameras were readied. The Helios core, the new micro-fusion energy prototype, sat under a glass dome, humming faintly with potential. Travis stood at the front, chest puffed, smile rehearsed. He began confidently. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the invention that will reshape energy forever. But 2 minutes in, something went wrong. The prototype began to flicker. Screens glitched, data streams warped. A red warning pulsed across the wall display. Travis froze. The room tensed. The CEO whispered sharply, "Travis, fix it." Travis tapped keys. Wrong keys. Random ones. He clicked through menus he didn't understand. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The investors leaned forward, concerned. Lights dimmed. The hum of the Helios core grew louder, unstable, dangerous. "Shut it down," one investor demanded. I'm trying," Travis stammered. The CEO hissed, "Do not lose this deal." Travis stared helplessly at a wall of code he didn't recognize. "Somebody," he gasped, "get Jordan." He left. The CEO snapped. "You replaced him, remember?" Chaos churned. The display blinked violently. The prototype began to overheat. Someone shouted, "Evacuate." But that's when the conference room door opened again. Not Jordan. Amara. She stepped inside calmly, notebook in hand. Her voice sliced clean through the panic. "Move." Everyone turned. Travis blinked. What are you doing here? This is a restricted..." She brushed past him without acknowledging the words. The CEO barked, "Young lady, get out. This is a highly sensitive..." She knelt by the console, typed a series of commands. Fingers moving fast, precise, correct. The warning light stabilized into orange. The hum softened. Investors leaned in. Travis stared. What did you do?" Amara didn't look up. She typed another line, another, opened a debug window, inserted a patch, resynced the cooling regulator manually. Red lights faded into blue, then into green. The Helios core steadied. A single soft chime echoed through the room. The system reset. Silence. Then gasps, whispers, astonished stares. The CEO's mouth hanging open. Travis's face went beet red. Amara stood slowly, brushing dust off her palms. The CEO stuttered, What was that?" She looked at him calmly. "A failsafe loop. The Helios core overheated because a subroutine was missing." "Missing?" an investor repeated. "What kind of subroutine?" Amara turned to Travis. "The one Jordan wrote," she said. "It's in his original notes." Travis paled. He hadn't even read the binder Jordan tried to carry out. The CEO swallowed. "And how did you know how to fix that?" Amara closed her notebook gently, because inside it was a blueprint she had drawn herself. Without being asked, without being credited, without being acknowledged, her eyes lifted. "I know the Helios core," she said quietly. "Better than anyone left in this room." Silence snapped tight. No one laughed now. No one dismissed her. No one talked over her, because they had just watched the quiet black woman from the corner do the impossible. For a moment, no one moved. The only sound in the room was the soft, stable hum of the Helios core, calm now, glowing with a gentle blue pulse. Amara could feel every pair of eyes burning into her. Some stunned, some calculating, some embarrassed that they had just watched her prevent a multi-million-dollar catastrophe. The lead investor spoke first, his accent clipped and precise. "Who are you?" It wasn't hostile. It was hungry. Amara adjusted her glasses. "I'm Amara King, systems engineer. I work on the 3rd floor." Travis barked a disbelieving laugh. "You're a junior engineer. You're not cleared for core overrides. You could have saved the prototype," one of the investors interrupted, which she did. Travis froze. The CEO cleared his throat, scrambling to pick up control like loose papers in a windstorm. "Well, it appears Miss King is resourceful. But let's not forget this is Travis's show. He's our lead. He'll handle the rest." He gestured toward Travis like a magician trying to redirect attention from the actual magic. But the investors didn't look at Travis. They looked at Amara. "What exactly did you fix?" one of them asked. She opened her notebook, flipping to a page filled with handwriting, diagrams, margin annotations. "The problem started when the cooling subsystem hit a threshold that wasn't properly capped," she explained. "The Helios core's energy surge triggered a chain reaction because your main control script calls a function that doesn't exist in Jordan's original architecture." She glanced at Travis. "I'm guessing it was introduced recently." Travis's jaw ticked. "I restored the original recursive failsafe Jordan designed," she continued. "Then I patched the recent changes so they stopped calling an invalid endpoint. In other words, someone overwrote a critical safety routine with unstable code." The investors murmured. The CEO's face tightened. "Are you implying negligence?" "I'm stating facts," Amara said softly. Travis stepped forward, flustered. "This is ridiculous. I've been here for 3 weeks, and she's been stuck downstairs working maintenance scripts." Amara blinked slowly. Maintenance scripts, like the ones that kept this entire building from collapsing under the weight of sloppy features. She could feel old memories clawing at her chest. Moments when her ideas were laughed off, when someone took her work and presented it for her, louder, whiter, better dressed. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "You're going to have to be twice as good, baby girl. And even then, they might act like you're half as much." But she didn't let the anger surface. She just stood there, calm as a surgeon. The lead investor leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Miss King, how familiar are you with this project?" She hesitated. The CEO cut in. "She runs auxiliary processes, back-end tools. She's not—" "I'm familiar," Amara said, ignoring him. "How familiar?" the investor pressed. She lifted her chin. "I read every line of the Helios core codebase," she said. 4 times. A stunned pause. "Why?" another investor asked. "Because it matters," she said simply. "Because you don't put a fusion-adjacent system in a major city without understanding it. And because no one else was going to do it thoroughly if I didn't." The CEO laughed weakly. "She's exaggerating. Our teams are very thorough." Amara didn't argue. She didn't have to. The screen behind her still displayed the last system logs. Line after line of warnings, ignored in previous tests. Tiny anomalies, dismissed. She had flagged them, quietly, in emails that went unanswered. She turned, tapped one of the red flags on the log. "I reported this discrepancy 2 weeks ago," she said, "and again last Friday." The CEO stiffened. "I never saw those reports." I know, she replied. They were redirected. Her eyes cut briefly toward Travis. The room cracked with tension. One investor whispered to another. He knew. He pushed him out, installed this Travis, and nearly lost everything. Have you ever watched the truth finally land in a room that pretended not to see it? Watched people realize the person they stepped over was the one holding their future? Amara closed her notebook, hugging it lightly to her chest. I didn't come to embarrass anyone, she said. I just didn't want this place to blow up, literally or financially. The lead investor smiled faintly. Pragmatic. I like that. He looked at the CEO. We'd like her to remain for the rest of this demonstration. The CEO's jaw flexed. Of course. Travis gaped. You can't just, I'm the lead. The investor's gaze hardened. Are you? The question hung in the air, heavy as iron. The CEO scrambled for footing. Travis has been the point of contact with us and nearly gave us a meltdown, the investor replied. Frankly, I care less about titles and more about ability. His eyes slid back to Amara. And Miss King clearly has it. A warmth flickered in Amara's chest. Not pride, exactly. Recognition. Something she'd never been given openly. For a split second, her mind flicked back to where she came from. The tiny apartment with peeling paint, where she studied beneath a single, flickering bulb. The nights her mother came home from double shifts, hands raw from cleaning other people's offices. The stack of bills shoved into a drawer, to deal with later because food came first. Her degree framed on the wall, slightly crooked because the nail was loose and they couldn't afford repairs. She had clawed her way into Helix Dynamics through sheer grit. Top of her class, internships rejected, applications ignored, until one manager with half an open mind let her in as a junior. Get coffee, run tests, stay out of the big discussions. That's what she was told. So she listened. She got coffee, she ran tests. She stayed late after the big discussions and read the whiteboards they left messy. She photographed them, redrew them at home, understood them better than the people who scribbled them. She learned, silently, thoroughly, because no one expected her to. Now, under the blaze of the Helios core display, all those invisible knights stood behind her, like an army. The lead investor steepled his fingers. Miss King, do you believe this system is safe enough for us to invest in? All eyes turned to her, even Travis's, even the CEO's. Amara swallowed. I believe it can be, she said. But not yet. The CEO snapped. You're jeopardizing this deal. She turned to him. No, I'm telling the truth. If they invest now and a later flaw causes a disaster, we lose everything. People get hurt. Your company collapses. Their trust is gone. She looked at the investors again. I can stabilize it, she said quietly. We can make Helios safe, scalable, and market ready. But you need to stop cutting corners and start listening to the engineers doing the work. Her words landed like a verdict. Slowly, the lead investor smiled. Then, here's my condition, he said. We only sign this deal if Miss King leads the stabilization phase. The room exploded. What? She's junior. Completely unprecedented. The CEO sputtered. With all due respect, sir, she's not in management. She doesn't have... The investor stood. Then promote her. Silence. Concrete thick. The CEO opened and closed his mouth like a fish gasping on dry land. Travis's face went sickly pale. Amara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. I don't have experience leading a full team, she said. I've only run small modules. But You have experience saving one, the investor cut in. That's enough for me. He turned to the CEO. Either she leads the engineering overhaul, he said coldly, or we walk. The CEO's lips pressed into a hard line. He stared at Amara like she was a live grenade dropped into his lap. But he could do the math. They needed the deal. The deal needed her. Therefore, so did he. Congratulations, he said tightly. Effective immediately, Amara is promoted to Helios engineering lead. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She heard the words, but part of her didn't believe them. Not yet. Don't make me regret this, the CEO muttered. She looked him straight in the eye for the first time in 3 years. I won't, she said. But you might. She didn't say the last part out loud. She didn't need to. Everyone felt it. The meeting adjourned with tighter handshakes, frenzied side conversations, clashing emotions. Some engineers came up to her quietly. That was incredible. We've seen you doing the work for years. Others avoided her, threatened by the shift they couldn't control. Travis stormed out, shoulders stiff. The CEO disappeared into his office, already planning damage control. Amara stood alone for a moment in the middle of the glass-walled room. Just her and the Helios core. Her reflection stared back at her in the curved glass. Not the invisible junior. Not the coffee runner. The architect. She pressed a hand lightly to the dome. You're not blowing up on my watch, she whispered. Little did she know. The real test hadn't even started. Because that night, when most of the building went dark and the cleaning crew shuffled in, an email pinged her inbox. Subject: urgent. Helios stress test tomorrow. Investors present attached. A test plan she hadn't approved. A schedule she hadn't set. A series of parameters that pushed Helios harder than anything she'd done before. If anything failed now, it wouldn't just embarrass her. It would end her. She leaned back in her chair, the glow of the screen reflecting in her eyes. All right, she murmured. Let's do the impossible. The next morning, Helix Dynamics buzzed with an electricity Amara could feel in her bones. Engineers crowded into the glass-walled lab. Executives whispered near the elevators. The investors had flown in early, briefcases in hand, their expressions unreadable. The Helios core reset, stabilized, humming softly in its containment chamber, waited like a sleeping giant. Amara walked into the lab with her notebook tucked under her arm. Her braids were pinned up neatly. Her badge read, Amara King, Engineering Lead. Some people stared with admiration, others with jealousy, but everyone stared. Travis stood near the back, arms crossed, face tight with bitterness. The CEO hovered near the investors, wearing a strained smile. As Amara approached the console, the lead investor nodded. Miss King, ready? She inhaled. Yes. He gestured. Begin when you're ready. Amara ran her eyes over the test parameters again. The stress test was intense, too intense. Someone had deliberately set the threshold dangerously high. If she hadn't reviewed the plan last night and rewritten the commands, the Helios core might have destabilized instantly. Someone wanted her to fail. Someone wanted her humiliated, discredited, gone. Her eyes drifted to Travis for a heartbeat. He looked away. She didn't waste breath on blame. She would let the results handle that. Amara stepped to the console. Her hands hovered above the controls. Mia, she called to a young assistant across the room. Start logging data streams. Yes, ma'am. Jonas, watch the coolant flow. Call out any deviation above 0.4%. You got it. Darren, stay near the emergency cutoff. If anything spikes, we shut down. No hesitation. On it, The CEO frowned. He wasn't used to junior engineers giving orders. But the team listened, not because of her title, because of what she had done yesterday. Amara tapped the console lightly. The display lit up. "Beginning phase 1, she announced. The Helios core brightened. Data spiked, dipped, then synced smoothly. "Stable at 15%, Jonas called. "Coolant optimal," Mia added. Phase 2, phase 3, everything held. The investors began leaning forward, impressed. The CEO relaxed slightly, though sweat still dotted his forehead. "Miss King," the lead investor said, "accelerate to phase 5. A murmur spread through the engineers. "Phase 5 already? That's fast. We've never gone past phase 4. This will break her." Amara didn't flinch. She input the command. The core pulsed brighter. The hum deepened, vibrating through the floor. Graphs leapt upward. For a moment, everything was perfect. Then the alarms blared. Red flashed everywhere. "Coolant surge," Jonas shouted. "Core temp rising," Mia cried. "Shut it down," someone else yelled. The CEO stepped back, panic flooding his face. The investors stiffened. Travis smirked, the smallest, most poisonous smirk, believing the moment had arrived. But Amara was already moving. Her hands flew across the console. "Cross-route the coolant regulator manually," she ordered. "Jonas, open the secondary line now. Mia, freeze readings for 0.3 seconds and feed them back through loop C." The team moved instantly. Even the engineers who doubted her obeyed without question. The alarms screamed. The Helios core flickered violently, lighting the room with blinding white. "You need to shut it down," the CEO shouted. "No," Amara said sharply. "We stabilize it." "That's impossible." She didn't look up. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Not to me." Her fingers danced, command after command, override after override. The system fought her. The core shuddered, code ripping across the screens like a living storm. And then she saw it. The flaw. A microscopic logic error hidden deep in the routing script. Not Jordan's code, not hers. Travis's patch. A single misplaced variable that destabilized everything under pressure. Her lungs tightened. "Of course," she muttered. She tore open the terminal and typed faster than anyone in the room had ever seen. Lines of code cascaded down the screen. She bypassed Travis's patch, restored Jordan's architecture, inserted her own stabilizer logic, redirected the energy vector, refreshed the failsafe, forced the coolant loop into harmony. Then she hit enter. The alarms choked off. The blinding white softened into blue. The room held its breath. And the Helios core, the machine that nearly destroyed the entire project, glowed steady again. A perfect circle of light. Stable, controlled, obedient. Silence swept the room. Then gasps, disbelief, astonishment. The lead investor straightened, eyes wide. "Miss King, you just did something I have never seen." Another investor whispered, "She stabilized fusion imbalance manually. Humans can't do that." Travis took a shaky step back. "That's not possible." Amara finally looked at him. Her gaze was calm, solid, unshakable. "Maybe not for you." The CEO sputtered, You overrode the entire fail-safe system alone?" "No," she corrected. "With a team, listening, treating them like real engineers." People stared at her like they were seeing her for the first time. The lead investor stepped forward. "Miss King, you didn't just save a prototype. You saved a revolution. I've been investing for 30 years, and I've never seen someone think that fast under pressure." He turned to the CEO. "Consider the deal signed, but only if Miss King is appointed chief engineer of the Helios division." The CEO's jaw dropped. Chief, Chief Engineer? Yes, the investor said. Effective immediately. Amara froze. Her heart hammered. Chief Engineer, the highest technical position in the building. Travis lunged forward. This is insane. I'm the lead. I'm supposed to... The investor cut him off. Travis, your code almost exploded a fusion prototype. Twice. But you're done. Two security guards stepped forward, not aggressively, but with finality. Travis backed up, horrified. You can't do this. You can't. This is my project. My promotion. No, the investor said coolly. This company just realized who deserved it. The guards escorted him out of the lab. His voice echoed down the hall, shrill with disbelief. You'll regret this. She's nothing without... The door closed, cutting off the insult. Cutting off the old hierarchy, a new one rose in its place. The lead investor faced Amara. Miss King, he said, on behalf of the Helios Investment Group, welcome to your new division. Slowly, engineers began to clap, then louder, then louder. A wave of applause washed over her, the same room that once ignored her now rising to its feet. She felt her throat tighten, not from pride, from relief, from justice, from every night she thought about quitting, from every time someone took her work and smiled for the credit, from every moment she questioned if she'd ever be seen. Her eyes stung. She blinked the tears away, cleared her throat, and spoke. Jordan Wells, she said. The applause faded. I want him back, immediately. The CEO stammered. But, he resigned. Call him, she said. He built this. You forced him out. I want him on my team. The lead investor nodded. Agreed. Amara closed her notebook. The Helios core glowed behind her like a living heartbeat. She stood taller than she ever had in her life. And in the quiet, after the applause faded, a narrator would say, there are people you overlook, people you talk over, people whose brilliance is buried under assumptions. And sometimes, those are the people who save your life. Amara walked toward the glass door, light catching her silhouette. She didn't say another word. She didn't need to. Because today, the black woman they never saw did the impossible. And the world finally had to look up.